In the new film John Wick in theaters now, Keanu Reeves plays a hitman who came out of retirement to track down the gangster that took everything from him. The movie got an almost unheard of 100% at RottenTomatoes.com, so I guess I'm going to see my first movie of his in years. Looking forward to seeing it and listening to the haunting score done by Tyler Bates, who came off the year's biggest movie, Guardians of the Galaxy. He does some good movies, so go check it out. Hi, I'm Jonathon McHugh, and welcome back to Q-Score. I'm lucky enough to sit down with an old friend of mine, Lynn Grossman, that started out as, well, I don't know what we were doing back then. We played softball. We did a lot of things. We were in the music business. But she has been a music supervisor and an artist manager and represents some of the best talent for film and TV out there today with her company, Secret Road. But you did one big show for a long time called House MD. So tell us about the show and how you ended up doing it.
So I basically ended up doing the show because of nepotism.
Nepotism's good. I like nepotism.
Good. I had a friend who was a writer on the show, and I realized I have a company that also pitches music for film and TV, and I had wanted to pitch my artists for the show, and I called to find out who the music supervisor was, and they didn't have one. My friend who worked on the show said, maybe you should go in for an interview. I knew that I wasn't going to get my first job supervising on a major show without some help. So I brought along one of my friends, Gary Calamar, who's also another music supervisor.
Yes, he is.
We went in for the meeting together, and we were hired to do that show.
And the show ran for 116 episodes. How many years?
Yeah. I think
how many seasons?
7, 9, I don't know. I think I was on for 7 of the 9.
Right.
Yeah. So that's how I got the job, which was
So that's
crazy.
your only network show you've done.
Yeah.
And you did it for
the
years.
only show I've done.
And it was a huge hit.
I know.
It was one of like
I was the
iconic.
luckiest person in the world to have that show.
And so what was the, how was the demands for you delivering music every week to a show like that?
It was a little bit intense, and I was very thankful that I had a partner to do it. Plus, I had 2 completely full-time jobs going at the same time. So I feel like I had to figure out a way to succeed without having the normal amount of time that a music supervisor might have to research music. So where Gary had like an incredible brain filled with the perfect music for every cue, I sort of had to do my research a little bit differently. And I thought I felt like I figured out a good way to be able to do my job without being a music supervisor for a living. And some of the ideas that I would have is, I kind of approached it like English class, where you want to know what the subtext is for the scene and figure out like what is the word or the phrase or something that will bring out the emotion that you want to bring to the scene. And I would just start doing searches for songs that might have that lyric or something similar to it, and I would recognize the artist that would be appropriate for house and give it a go. And it sort of worked. It was almost like cheating, I think, because I don't have a great knowledge of music, but I'm resourceful, and I was able to figure out a way to get the correct song for it.
Right. And so, again, that's one of these iconic shows that you talk about lucky, because, most pilots go on the air shows, they go on 1, 2 seasons.
Yeah.
That show became a massive hit.
Yeah.
And, had an iconic figure in it.
Yeah.
And so, what was the type of music that you used? Was there a certain type of music, or was it all different throughout?
Yeah, I feel like there was probably one type of music that came up a lot, and it would be singer-songwriter, mature singer-songwriter, intellectual, intelligent artists. And then every now and then you would have to put like a disco song in the background of a bar in the middle of the country, or a country song or whatever. But mostly it felt within this genre of maybe what would be considered AAA music.
So on House,
Yes.
What was your favorite music placement ever that you helped pitch?
Well, my favorite placement was also my first placement, and I think it's because I felt like I was lucky to have this job. And I didn't know if any of the songs that I chose were ever going to make it into the show. So the first placement was a scene with Hugh Laurie's character being cheeky as always, and he figures out that 2 of his employees are having an affair and walks into a closet where they're making out. And he just turns around to the camera and has like this smirky look on his face. And I chose the song Superfly by Curtis Mayfield.
Classic.
And it just like, it really like made the scene. And the producer of the show said it was one of her favorite placements too. So, you know, for me, it was just, I couldn't believe I actually picked a song that got into the show. It was amazing.
Right, so beginner's luck. It was working well.
Definitely.
So after that, you decided that you were just going to focus on Secret Road and no more supervision.
Well, the series ended, and my life at Secret Road just kept getting busier and busier, so I didn't really have time to look for a new show. And so I just didn't. Things have started to come up again. I've had a couple of requests to do some shows now, so if I can fit it in, I'd like to.
Right, so how many acts does Secret Road have? Did you guys
We have about
help?
150.
Wow, so it's an incredible roster of talent. And obviously trying to find placements for it, knowing as a music supervisor what people look for and how they look for it, it makes you better served, and you and your team, to be able to, you know, find those opportunities, I would think, right?
Definitely, and it's interesting how we sign people to the roster too, because we choose people who sound great on film, TV, and advertising. And the thing that I've like realized by doing all of these different jobs is there are songs that sound great on radio, there are songs that sound great specifically on TV, specifically for an ad, and sometimes they're not the same song. I can listen to a song and say, that's for a water commercial. And I can listen to a song and say, that's never going to get licensed ever, but that would be an amazing song to get on the radio.
So you really do break it down in that kind of specific flow now.
Yeah.
So you're like, when you target stuff, you're hearing it and saying, yeah, I like this for this, and I like this for this.
Yeah.
And you're putting it in buckets immediately when you hear music.
Definitely. It's funny, when we have our office meetings and we're listening to music together, the phrase that we use is, does this come up often? And what that means is when music supervisors reach out to us and say, we're looking for a song that has this kind of energy, that sounds like this or that, we consider that a request that comes up often. So we listen to a song or a band that's been presented to us and we decide, is this going to come up enough? Are we going to be successful with this band or with this song? Or is this too esoteric, or are there too many lyrics in this song and it'll never be placed? And that's sort of how we make our decisions. Is it going to be successful in the supervision world?
Interesting.
And that's all that's really important to us.
Sure. That's the whole game, because
Yeah.
you work on commission basis, right? And
Yeah.
you got to have those things get placed.
Exactly.
So take us back a little bit. So you found an artist on MySpace. Talk about the process of how that happened and the first placement and what it became.
Interestingly, I didn't find her on MySpace. I had started this company to pitch music for film and TV, and I was afforded an opportunity to go to Japan for 2 weeks with a former management client. And I didn't want to leave my business unattended, so I asked a music supervisor friend if she could watch my business, and if she found anyone that she wanted to sign up that we would add to our roster, that, you know, I trusted her to do that. So I came back and she had signed up 2 clients. One of them was Ingrid Michaelson.
Who was the supervisor?
Andrea von Forster.
Interesting.
Yeah, she still gets all credit. So I came back from my trip. She told me she signed up this woman. She said she's a little bit nervous about, you know, signing over her rights to a company that's going to pitch her music. She's like, you should probably call her. And I spoke to Ingrid, and she was great. She
From
decided,
her home in Staten Island, New
from her
York.
home in Staten Island.
Home of Q Score, by the way, the original
Exactly.
Q Score.
Staten Island rules. And she was great, and she decided that she would continue working with me. And I think it was about a month later, I was going to be in New York meeting ad agencies, and she asked if we could have a meeting, and I was like, oh, I'm not sure, I'm pretty busy. And she like really was persistent, and she made sure that we had the meeting, and we sat down together, and she's like, everyone tells me my songs would be great for Grey's Anatomy. How am I going to get my songs on
Which
Grey's
is something
Anatomy?
you hear from everybody.
Yeah, exactly. But I think her mom specifically had said, your music would be perfect for this. So I told her that we had already pitched the music for Grey's Anatomy, and it's just a matter of time. I have a good feeling about it. And but she was really impatient. And right after our meeting, I went back to my computer, and there was a request for her song on Grey's Anatomy.
Amazing.
Which was amazing.
And it was season finale, wasn't it?
Not yet.
Okay.
It was the first of, I think, 13 or 14.
No way.
Yeah, that she's had on
Wow.
there.
So Alex liked her, huh?
Yeah, Alex was so good to her. She really kick-started her career. So as soon as that happened, I gave her a homework assignment. I said, these are the 10 things that you need to do to maximize this placement that's going to happen. These are 10 people I want you to reach out to start getting shows in the area, and just kind of teaching her how to build her profile, but not managing her, just giving her some ideas.
But giving her management type advice.
Yeah, yeah. And she went home and she did everything immediately. And she was really, really excited about this. And I think that's what made me want to work with her, because I had done management for a while and I was really excited to do something that would help more artists than just one. And one of the challenges of management is you're on call like a doctor 24 hours. So you're getting a call when a van breaks down in Omaha. And so I was kind of done with that for a while. And then I met Ingrid, and she was, I loved her music. And she was such a hard worker, and I just felt like...
Staten Island people kill it, man.
They really
work
do.
Hard. They work hard, those
New
people.
Yorkers, they go for it.
Yeah.
So we decided to work together.
Right. And so if Ingrid went from there. I didn't realize she had that many placements on one show.
Yeah.
But then you found a commercial for her, right?
Yes.
And so talk about that.
That was very exciting. So we were maybe 7 months into working together. She had that Grey's Anatomy season finale song that you were talking about. And I'll go back to that a little bit, because that was such an exciting time. We found out that we were getting the season finale song at Grey's Anatomy, and at that time, that was only reserved for people on major labels. Ingrid was happily unsigned at the time. So we put out a press release. First unsigned artist gets the coveted slot on Grey's Anatomy. The next day I got a call from the Wall Street Journal saying that they wanted to write an article about this. And then the article came out the next day with her picture on the cover of the Wall Street Journal. Good Morning.
You mean the line drawing?
Yeah, yeah,
The
exactly,
line drawing.
exactly. And then Good Morning America called after seeing that article and asked her if she would come on the show the next day. And the funny thing is, she was so scared of being on TV that she asked if she could just call in on the phone. And somehow she managed to do it. Yeah.
She took the ferry in and made it happen.
Yeah. So that was amazing. And the song that she sang, or that they used on Grey's Anatomy, was called "Keep Breathing," and there were spikes everywhere for that song. 4 months later, we were offered to have her song "The Way I Am" in a commercial for Old Navy, and that song lasted only 3 weeks. That commercial was on for only 3 weeks.
That's it.
And it killed it.
But it had massive impact, though.
It had,
What a heavy
yeah.
rotation commercial.
Yeah, our goal when we first started working together, we put together this list called the Grandmaster Flash Plan. It's weird. But on that list was to have a song in a major commercial. On that list was to make her career valuable enough that if she chose to sign to a record label, that she would have some leverage with them. And on that list was also, which is ridiculous, and I can't believe we put this on there, is become so valuable that radio stations call you asking for your song. And we know that never, ever, ever happens. And it did. After this commercial rang, we had people requesting to get copies of the song.
So you had never serviced the record to radio at this point?
No.
And so you started self-servicing?
So we started servicing the
right.
Yeah. And we used a distributor through our label, Red Distribution, who had a radio department, Danny Bush, and he took it really far. All without a record label. So
you were
exciting.
offered record label deals at this point,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But what was the thought process to not do it?
Because we were doing okay. We had the song on adult contemporary radio, Hot AC radio. We had it on AAA. It had gone to #1 on AAA. VH1 had added her video. There was actually a point where her song dipped slightly on the charts, one notch. And she's like, okay, I'm ready to sign. Like, she was like, it's all over. We better get on this.
Bailing on the DIY concept.
Totally. And and I think it was a Thursday that happened. And I met with her attorney and a friend of mine who's a pretty big manager. And the manager said, well, what else do you need that you're not getting already that a label could provide? And there really wasn't anything. And actually it was my consultant, not the attorney. He's like, there's no business where you're doing this well and you just hand it all over to a business. And at the time, that industry was really in flux. And so I talked Ingrid into waiting until the end of the year. This was in November. And maybe a week later, Billboard came to us and they wanted to put her on the cover.
Put her on the cover.
Yeah.
And that was huge.
As, you know, the new paradigm in the music
Right.
industry.
You became the poster child for the DIY.
Yeah, so we had to stay DIY. We didn't
then
have
it
a
was
choice
like
at that point.
betraying your roots.
Exactly.
Right.
So
And so how many albums has she put out now at DIY?
she's put out 4 albums.
4 albums.
Yeah.
So the newest album came out earlier this year.
Yeah, Tax Day.
And you got a song, again, that's just an infectious track.
Yeah.
And you spoofed a little Robert Palmer
Exactly.
in the video. Talk about that, working this process and how it works, doing, you know, for artists out there on their own, doing things. Talk about what it takes to really do it this way.
I feel like it's changed so much in the 7 years that she and I have worked together, and it's really hard to make an impact. There's so many people making music, so much competition. Radio is more competitive. Licensing, there's so much of it that it's hard to make an impact. You know, we can have a song on a show and you don't see a bump in sales at all, whereas I think 7 years ago you would see that. So now you just have to figure out how to stand out. I always say it's all about the music first, though. I feel like if you're going to work on doing this for a living, put 80% of your time into making the best music you can possibly make. And then you can switch over to the marketing of that music. So with this song, Girls Chase Boys, Ingrid's very creative. She was trying to come up with a concept for this video, and she wanted it to be a dance video. So she started to look at iconic dance videos, and she looked at the Robert Palmer video with him in the front and the girls dancing in the back, and she weirdly turned down his music and put hers on top of it and thought that it looked kind of weird and funny, and decided that she should do sort of a remake of it with her in the front and people in the back, not just guys, but sort of I guess you can't really tell who's a man and who's a woman in the back, and that was part of it too. The song Girls Chase Boys, also people, when she wrote that song, she wasn't sure if it sounded too heteronormative and maybe she should be more inclusive, so there are lyrics in there, girls chase girls, boys chase boys. This video was sort of a nice way to incorporate that thought, and so that's how that came around. We wanted it to be something that might draw attention to that idea, and it definitely did. It's funny, there are about 7 million views on YouTube now, and maybe 50% of the comments, sadly, are not positive about what she was trying to do in that video.
Really?
Yeah.
What are the negatives on it?
Just, you know, people that are homophobic, or, you know, why would guys ever dress up and wear makeup? Most of the female comments are, they look better than I do, so that's usually pretty positive.
But again, these are all get conversations started.
Yeah.
And that's part of what the whole viral nature of things is.
Definitely.
So how has this song been received in the film and TV world as far as?
It's actually been received really well. What I've noticed, we were talking about radio and licensing, is sometimes a song doesn't get licensed until it gets on radio. And this was one of those that, as the more popular the song got on radio, the more interesting it was for people to consider for licensing. I was going to say for advertising, you know, you think about how much money that they put into their ads, and it's such an important choice to pick the song that's appropriate for the ad. And sometimes you don't want to take chances with something new. So a lot of times people will go with a song that's well-known, a hit, etc. Sometimes they will want to take a chance, but I feel like once a song's on the radio, it sort of gets a second life in the sync world, because now it's a well-known song.
And so the process is, this record has been working at radio in the Hot AC land and doing quite well, right?
Yeah, it's been going great. And we have a new single that came out 2 weeks ago that's just going to radio now, called Afterlife. And the lyrics to this song are made for a commercial. We've gotten our first national commercial that starts in a couple weeks.
Congratulations.
Thank you, which is very exciting. So yeah, we're really excited about the next single too.
That's great. So do you manage other acts?
I don't.
So this
But
is,
I want to.
This is Focus. You have Focus, which is good.
Well,
Focus
we run
is good.
Ingrid's record label,
Right.
run the licensing company. We started a publishing company 2 years ago.
Right.
It's just there's not enough bandwidth.
There's a couple things going on at once.
Yeah. I feel like I would like to manage writers and producers because you don't have to worry about the bus breaking down in Omaha,
Right.
which is great. And I feel like that's a new world that I'd like to get into. You know, you watch the changing trends in the music industry, and it's really hard to create an artist, a brand that can sell tickets, can sell T-shirts, that can sell music, etc. So I am interested in trying to branch almost in a different direction and seeing how that goes.
Yeah, the build to break an artist is a very hard thing to do. And what you guys have done, you've taken a medium, film and TV, and you've utilized it to an artist's strength. And then you know, obviously she's incredibly clever and her shows are fantastic and her banter is witty and you know, makes you laugh. And you leave that show when she performs, you know, feeling really good.
Yeah.
So is she still touring? What's her?
She is. She's in the middle of a tour now. We'll probably keep touring this album for another year if these singles keep working.
God bless. Knock on wood, right?
Yeah, I hope so.
So good. Well, anyway, Lynn Grossman, manager Ingrid Michaelson, music supervisor House MD, and keep your eyes out for her because she's doing shit. See you next time on Q Score.
Thank you. Thanks, John.
Thank you. For more Q Score, please check us out at emPOWERme.tv to find out what goes on behind the curtain and how the film and TV music gets made. It happens right here. Tune in.